before we dive into chatting about Europe, let me also introduce you to our executive editor at WendyPerrin.com, Brooke Wilkinson.
Hi, everyone.
So, Brooke is in Northern California. Many of you already know her because she helps answer so many of your travel questions when you write to questions at WendyPerrin.com. She's on the other end of many of those emails and she helps connect you with the right travel specialist for your particular trip goals. And Brooke has traveled to more than 50 countries and been on many, many, many wow trips. Most important, she and I used to work together at Condé Nast Traveler magazine. And so we've known each other for decades, and I'm just so thrilled that she's our executive editor. Brooke, take it away.
Well, welcome, everyone. Great to have you all with us. And just a brief explainer, if you're new to WendyPerrin.com, if a friend sends you the link and you're curious to know what we do. So this is a website that helps people plan trips in a couple of different ways. First, as Wendy mentioned, we're both journalists with magazine backgrounds. We write articles about travel, and you'll find those all over our website. But I also think of us as travel matchmakers because we connect travelers with experts like the other people you see on your screen right now who plan private, custom tailored trips. These planners we have with us today and many others are on our WOW list of trusted travel experts. And you'll find that in the menu bar on our website. When you contact those experts via our site, we guide you through our WOW approach to travel planning, which is designed to avoid those common pitfalls and get you the best trip possible. And we also offer personalized trip recommendations. What Wendy was mentioning, that we're emailing with travelers, many, many travelers every day. And you can get that through our Ask Wendy questionnaire, which is also in the black nav bar on our website. A few notes about today's talk. Make sure to open up the Q&A box in Zoom. As Wendy mentioned, we'll be putting a few links in there. And also type any questions that you have in the box, and we'll try to get to as many of them as possible. But you can also email them to questions@WendyPerrin.com after the hour is up. We don't get to yours.
Awesome.
Okay.
Brooke, thank you so much. So so we're lucky to have with us today, as I mentioned, 8 WOW list experts from across Europe. And today they're going to be sharing their under the radar finds and advice for where and how to avoid the tourist crowds, what everybody in the audience wants to do. And I'm sure they'll have tips also for where to get the most for your US dollar this year. So first, I'd like to go around our room here and ask each of our experts, what is one of your favorite under the radar spots that you're willing to share with us that people don't know about? Let's start with Maria and Brian, experts in Italy and Switzerland. Maria Landers and Brian Dorr from CIU Travel. And Maria and Brian, tell us where you are right now. Oh, I think you need to unmute. But tell us where you are right now also.
We are at our home office in Italy, in Umbria, where we live part of the year. We go back and forth between Connecticut in the US and Umbria, which we've done for probably 20 years now. So we happen to escape Snowmageddon, which some of you are probably still in who are on this call. And we made it here where it's about 50 degrees and very pleasant.
Great. So tell us about what secret under the radar spot are you willing to share with us today?
Well, we discussed this because we didn't want to share some of our favorite spots, but we decided that actually one spot, which when I mentioned to travelers, they really haven't heard of or don't know about, is Matera, which is in southern Italy. And people do call and say, oh, we'd like to go to Puglia because they've heard of Puglia. There's a lot of travel journalism about it. It's a wonderful area. But Matera is in the region of Basilicata, which is right next to Puglia, and it is one of the most unique cities in Italy. It's incredible. It was a city of caves for hundreds of years. And in fact, only in the 1950s, the Italian government had to make people move out of the caves because, for health reasons, obviously. And they now live in homes, but the caves are still there and you can visit them. And it's just an incredible city. The food is great. And it's definitely a place that people don't seem to have on their radar.
I agree with that, and I'll also pick a place in northern Italy that I go to a lot. Is kind of my secret place, and that's Parma. I've been beating the Parma drum the past few years on these calls, and I'll continue to beat it because it's still not popular. But Parma has a wonderful music scene and incredible food and culture, and it is a great place to visit.
Awesome. Great. Those are good tips. Thank you. So let's move on to Karen G, who is with Crown Journey in England. And Karen, what's one of your favorite under the radar spots that you're willing to share with us? And tell us
Hello,
where you are
everyone.
also right now.
Oh yes, well, actually, it's like I planned it. I'm actually in Shropshire at the moment. I'm in my home office at the moment in Shropshire, and the hidden gem, the under the radar location that I want to talk about is, like magic, Shropshire. Um, so this is a super historic, culturally interesting, fabulous place that not many people know about. So it's got a lot of history. Think those Tudor black and white half timbered buildings, beautiful historic homes, and very, very good for foodies. So that's my top tip.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's move on to Philip Hazlitt, who is with French Promise Travel in Provence. Tell us where you are right now, Philip.
Well, right now I'm in Aix-en-Provence, so in the south of France. So basically the capital city of Provence, which many people come to. That's no secret. However, if we want to talk about places, I mean, France is full of undiscovered spots, and I actually set my background as one of them is Brittany. Why Brittany? Simply because Brittany is right next door to Normandy. Every time people go to St. Michael's Mount, which is full of tourists, you literally travel about 10 kilometers and you're in Brittany. Brittany, Saint-Malo, which is what's behind you, you can kind of see there. There you go. That's the beach in Saint-Malo, but it's got new hotels. So it's allowing us, we've suddenly got somewhere to base ourselves, which we didn't really have before. And you've got this unbelievable culture and all of the myths of King Arthur. Yes, I'm English and I come from Cornwall, and I thought that King Arthur was only in Cornwall, but no. Brittany, the forest of Brocéliande, the Merlin's tomb is there. And then you have the southern part of Brittany where we can organize sailing in the Gulf du Morbihan. And the nice thing about Brittany as well is that in the summer, it's cool. It never gets beyond 23, 24 degrees centigrade. I mean, it gets up a little bit higher. So, it's going to get into sort of the 80s at the most Fahrenheit. So, yeah, a magical spot that I highly recommend.
Sign me up. Okay, and let's move over to Spain and Portugal and introduce you to Ivan, I hope I say this right, Ricoy, from Genuine Andalusia. Ivan, tell us, what is your favorite under the radar spot?
Well, my favorite under the radar spot, I guess, is where I have chosen to have a little hideaway, which is the natural park of the Straits of Gibraltar. It's a natural park that is bathed by both the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. It's in southernmost continental Spain, so you have beautiful views when you are on the hillside, as I am, of the Mediterranean Sea, the Atlantic Ocean, and the African continent. So it's simply spectacular. It has a southwest orientation, so I see the sunset over the ocean every day. Obviously, when it's not cloudy, which is pretty much every day. So it feels like a real privilege. It's surrounded by beautiful nature. There is wonderful food, fish, and also there are Iberian pigs and retinto beef, which is the beef that is native to here and is wonderful. However, in the summer, it can get a little busy with Spaniards mostly because this part of the world is becoming a little popular for Spaniards looking for wilderness and unspoiled places. So then I escaped to northern Extremadura. I'm saying this slowly because somebody was asking us to spell the names of all these regions because it makes it difficult for them to understand. So Extremadura. The northern part of Extremadura in the summer is filled with rivers and river pools, and there's hardly anybody. So you go hiking and you can swim in the most beautiful natural pools with not so many people around you, and that feels wonderful.
Great way to beat the heat. Okay, well, let's move on to Belgium and the Netherlands. Tom Stingelhammer from Brilliant Ideas is our Benelux specialist. Tom, what's one of your favorite lesser known spots?
Yes, I love a region in the Netherlands which is called North Brabant, and it's located in the south of the country. But it's a region which is really less habited by the locals and far less visited by tourists compared to the east part of the Netherlands, the western part of the Netherlands, I mean, with Amsterdam, The Hague, Rotterdam, and Gouda. So that area is very, very quiet. Is full of charming fortified towns, offering a village feeling, beautiful nature, endless waterways, beautiful bike rides, of course, and also with culture. For instance, you have the Van Gogh Village Museum in the village of Nuenen. It's a kind of open air museum in the village where Vincent grew up and started to paint. And for instance, in Amsterdam, you can admire the Vincent paintings at the Van Gogh Museum. That's the place to go to see the paintings. But there, you will really stroll through the village and see about 20 places that you can find in his paintings. It's really amazing. But that's it. That's one place. But the whole region is really beautiful.
Great, thank you for the tip. And I should have said that Tom is coming to us from Brussels uh, right
Yes, yes,
now.
yes. And
And
I can back Philip about Brittany because my wife is from there. I go there every summer. It's wonderful.
well, I love how you all are suggesting places also that can be nice and cool in the summertime to help people beat the heat. So Torrin Transfang from up Norway. Torrin, tell us where you are right now and one of your favorite lesser known spots.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm calling in from a hotel in Stockholm where I'm spending the night. And I would like to share one of my favorite spots, newly discovered because the place is brand new. But this is a cabin, more of a luxury residence, but we've chosen a humble name for it. So it's a cabin called Lingehytta, Linge, so the Linge cabin. And it's located built into a mountain with the most incredible fjord view that I've ever seen from a residence in Norway, overlooking the little village called Linge, which is a fruit village by the fjord where you can stroll, you can walk into barns, you can just pick your own little fruit juices and just pay. It's a trust-based system. And then you can use this villa as a base to explore the lesser known areas of the UNESCO Fjord Heritage, Geiranger and Tafjord. And even though the nature and the landscape is spectacular, the surroundings are luxurious, the best part is still the people. The wonderful host, life, and the guides that we have that take people out in nature to pasture farms, hiking, walking, biking, or just simply practicing the art of doing nothing. And this is exclusive for our guests.
Terrific. Sounds wonderful. Okay, and let's move on. We're sort of moving from west to east across Europe. And now let me introduce you to Greg Tepper, founder of Exeter International. And Greg, you cover a lot of territory. What is
Yes.
one of your, if you could pinpoint one special place?
You know, it's interesting. Before COVID hit, we were seeing so many Americans finally discovering the Caucasus Mountains and the Caucasus region of Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. And that has not really come back. It's a very interesting. I don't, there's like an amnesia of what everyone was excited about before. But that region is so spectacular. Georgia in particular is such a draw. And before the crowds come back, I think every American traveler should consider it. The mountains are spectacular, but the city of Tbilisi, which has art, absolutely everything, the history, the art. It was part of the Ottoman Empire for a while, so they have Turkish baths in the old town, which is perfectly preserved, an old citadel. There are new hotels now that have opened up, putting you in the right place in Old Town. And you can also go out into the countryside to Borjomi, which is where the springs are, out and the cave monasteries. So there's so much to see in Georgia alone, and any trip to the Caucasus is really built around a good 6, 7 days in Georgia. If you have a few extra days, going into Baku in Azerbaijan is pretty spectacular for 3 days. They have carpet museum. They have a lot of wonderful cultural experiences there, and it's on the Caspian Sea, which is a unique experience in and of itself. And then Armenia, the Armenians have built monasteries in the most precarious places on earth. You see them underground, on the cliffside, over the water. I mean, just absolutely everything. And those three countries. And the last thing I would say is the food in this area is truly spectacular. We're seeing that in the United States. More and more Georgian restaurants. In New York, there are 3 or 4, and a new one seems to open every few months in Manhattan. Because that food, khachapuri is the national dish, is a baked cheesy bread, and it's comfort food at its best, but also just grilled vegetables, lots of basil, fresh basil and cilantro. But anyway, those are the reasons. And if as an American traveler, you're really hardly ever going to see other American travelers there if you go this season. I highly recommend staying out of the hot months in July and August there. But yeah, like spring and fall in the Caucasus are the place to be.
Awesome. I love going to places where there really aren't any other Americans because then everyone just like is fascinated. Everyone wants to talk to you. It's such a special experience. Well, okay, let's move on to the next question I want to ask everybody, which is what place is having such an interesting moment this year that it just should not be missed in 2026? So Maria and Brian, what place would you recommend specifically for this year?
Well, I mean, the obvious choice, which is not my choice, is Milano Cortina in the next month is going to be home to the Olympics. And so that would be like, wow, the Olympics, except that I wouldn't really recommend going to Olympics this year. I think that the actual production of the Olympics is going to be great as a television event, but the locations of the events and everything are very spread out, and it would be a very difficult place to actually visit. I do think you might want to visit those places after the Olympics, though, because as you'll find out in my actual answer, these places get spiffed up in Italy for big events. And so last year, I'm going to take a little bit of a strange take on this, and I'm going to say that the out of the way place you should visit this year is Rome. Because Rome got spiffed up last year for the Jubileo, and savvy travelers stayed away. Lots of them stayed away. And so this is the year probably to go and see what work they've done. The museums have been all improved. The transit has been improved. The Colosseum, it looks nicer. Everything got cleaned up. The roads have been worked on. There's still the big thing. Piazza Venezia is still a mess. It'll be a mess for the next 10 years, but it is absolutely a beautiful city. I was there in November. There was hardly anybody there, and it was absolutely beautiful time to visit. And I had wonderful meals in uncrowded restaurants with Romans. You won't find that in the summer, but you'll still find a beautiful city. So that's my off the beaten path, spiffed up place for this year, Rome.
Great to know. So Rome sort of off season this year. And Maria, what about you?
Well, there is a really important exhibit in Florence in the fall at the Uffizi, and it's going to be a collection of Lorenzo Magnifico, who is like the most famous Medici, of all of the art and manuscripts and everything that he had. It's finally all coming together in one exhibit, and I think it will be really interesting. And that is a place, I mean, Florence is always a place people like to go visit. And I think that this year, that exhibit will really merit some attention.
Thank you. Okay, and back to Karen from the UK. What is the not to be missed place or thing this year?
So, in fact, my New Year's resolution this year is to get people out of London. But the thing that I'm going to recommend is actually in London, and it's a special exhibit which is starting this fall. And it's going to be there for just 1 year, so just 12 months. and it is the Bayeux Tapestry. It's on loan from Normandy. It's coming to the British Museum in London, and I think this is absolutely fascinating. Not to prevent anyone from going to beautiful Normandy, of course, but if you are coming to the UK, it would be an additional outstanding thing to see. So, this is a tapestry that is over 200 feet long. It's huge, and it depicts the Norman invasion. So it's nearly 1,000 years old. It's amazing. So you can see all about that event and some what life was like, all the social comment about all the people who were in there actually displayed in this way instead of reading about it in a book. And I think that's really special.
Good. Well, thanks for the London tip. And so then if people are going to France, Philip, what would you say can't be missed this year? And please unmute yourself there.
Apologies.
Right. No.
So this year, well, goodness, this year, the talk of the town, I think, is going to be Burgundy. There's several reasons. 3 new hotel openings have finally made Burgundy, or finally, I mean, there's always been good hotels in Burgundy. I started my career in Burgundy 40 years ago. It was the place to be. It was where everyone was, and all the hotels at the time are still there, and they haven't moved on from that time. And suddenly we've got new hotels turning up, and it's very exciting. Burgundy is easy to reach from Paris. Northern Burgundy for me is my favorite spot. It's the most fascinating. It's got more culture than practically any other region in France. But now we've got these fantastic hotels, which, and in a way, once you've got this, everyone else has kind of got their act together, and so suddenly we've got lots of things happening. I've been up twice this year in the freezing cold to go and see things. I'm hopefully going up next week again for there's one big hotel opening which is going to be opening in March. So I think Burgundy is a very exciting one because, as I said, the everything's going to be there to make it just so much easier to visit.
Right. Great. Burgundy. So back to Spain and Portugal. Yvonne, what would you send people to this year?
Well, I've been recommending the city of Jerez de la Frontera in the southern Spain's Insider's Guide, and because of the food and because of other reasons. But now it's not a secret anymore. The city is celebrating the fact that it is Spain's gastronomy capital for 2026. So my hypothesis that it's a place where you can have a wonderful holiday with wonderful food has been validated. So the city has been granted this recognition, and it's going to be a great place to come and visit. Still, it's a fairly under the radar destination because it's eclipsed towards the west by the popularity of Sevilla, and it's eclipsed towards the east by the popularity of Marbella and places like that. So it never had, until very recently, really good hotels, but now that has changed. So it's not only that it's going to be the gastronomy capital of Spain 2026, it's that now we have wonderful hotels and actually a great choice. So that for Spain. And then a wonderful place that I recommend to visit in Portugal, because it's going to become as popular as Lisbon and Porto sooner or later, is the city of Coimbra. Coimbra is in between Porto and Lisbon. It was the capital of Portugal in the Middle Ages, and it's what Lisbon and Porto were before they were so popular. I was there 10 days in December, and it was like so nostalgic. What I felt is like, wow, this is what Portugal, or cities like Lisbon and Porto anyway, were like before they were so popular. So true Portuguese romance, wonderful food, history, architecture, and a lot of wonderful day trips to take from there. So it makes a wonderful base to explore the center of Portugal.
Great. Thank you. Tom, what about for Belgium and or the Netherlands?
Yeah, I will pick Bruges because despite being already on the tourist map, the city is a must for the ones who love rich history, beautiful medieval architecture, and charming waterways. But it's a lot of old art, and sometimes you can have the feeling that Bruges is stuck in its glorious past. However, there is a new contemporary art center opening in a couple of weeks, and it's more than a museum for contemporary art. It's really a signature building with a lot of events happening. a place for children workshops, bar and restaurants. But I mean, it will bring a lot of modernity into Bruges. And we have also tricks to also escape from the crowd, from the touristic side of Bruges. So really, it's going to be nice.
It sounds like it. Torin, what about in Nordic countries there? What would you recommend for this year?
I would say this year, consider traveling in winter to northern Sweden or northern Norway to what's called Lapland in Sweden or Sápmi in Norway, where we have the indigenous Sami people, because this is a peak year for Northern Lights activity. So the Northern Lights activity, the Aurora Borealis, move in 11-year cycles. And right now, this winter season, we're at a peak. So that means that there are more often that you can see the northern lights, and the lights are also stronger, and they come in many shapes and colors and speeds, and you can see them as long as you're above the Arctic Circle. So that would be my top recommendation for this winter.
Awesome, thank you. And Greg, what would be your can't miss recommendation for this year?
Yeah, I think that what has flown under the radar for a long time as well is Belgrade in Serbia and Sarajevo, and that region is just so full of history. And the reason to go now, just historically, this has been an area of conflict, and um, we're never too far away. It's completely safe. It's absolutely wonderful. A lot of investment moving into this area. Great new hotels have opened in Belgrade. I was just there about 6 months ago, and really luxurious experience that you can have that we didn't have before. It was pretty uncomfortable with the hotel situation, and the same thing in Sarajevo. Just really really gorgeous places to stay, wonderful restaurants and great museums. But as I said, it's now is the time because it's just a part of the world that you never know. It's like the conflict could return, and it's just wonderful and safe, and it's now the time to do it. And I think a lot of people overlook Belgrade and Bosnia Herzegovina because of Croatia. Croatia is the big draw. Everybody wants to go to Dubrovnik. So you can go to those places and then end in Dubrovnik or end in Montenegro at the beach at the beautiful new one and only. But that's what I would suggest for this coming season.
Great. I love Sarajevo.
Yeah,
See these
fascinating.
places now, folks. Life is short.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last question I want to ask everybody, and then we're going to ask all the other questions in the Q&A box, but what is one clever, practical strategy for avoiding tourist crowds or lines, or beating the summer heat, or otherwise, conquer whatever a common pitfall is for travelers to your destination? What's your best strategy or tip for acing that? Maria and Brian?
So for Italy, which is super popular, a lot of people know most of the sites. I'm not going to talk about the lines. Everybody knows get your tickets in advance, get a guide, blah, blah, blah. What we find, though, when we talk to people is that sometimes gets in the way of their enjoyment is that you have to leave your home schedule behind. Like, don't come to Italy and try to eat dinner at 5 o'clock because you'll be very disappointed. And you have to already understand this before you come. You have to get on the schedule and kind of live the life the way we're living it here. And come out of your comfort zone, maybe do things a little differently. Maybe if you have a hard fast rule, I don't eat lunch. Well, sometimes lunch in Italy is the big meal of the day, and you want to eat lunch, So I say we kind of talked about it. You really just have to kind of get out of yourself and try to do as the locals do, and try to live according to the schedule where you are.
Yeah, I think
When
that
in Rome.
yes, exactly. I
Exactly.
mean, that's like Italy gets this nomination this year as UNESCO World Heritage. The Italian cuisine is the first cuisine of the world to be named in UNESCO Heritage. And what does that mean? It means like a million different cuisines from like thousands of places in Italy. All these places have their own unique thing. And say maybe you wouldn't necessarily eat that in America. You might want to eat it when you're on vacation, just because it's going to be here and it's going to be prepared very, very well. I also would beat the heat. I'm the biggest proponent of naps. When we first moved to Perugia, Maria would say to me, we were university students, and we were like, after lunch, I would go, I'm taking a nap. It'd be 95, 100 degrees outside in Perugia. I said, I'm taking a nap. And she was like, no, I'm going out. I'm going to go to the stores. And she would walk outside and nothing would be open. And she'd come back and she's like, there's nothing open. And I'm like, take a nap.
That was before we had our business.
Okay, thank you. So, Perrin, in England, what would be a clever practical strategy you'd recommend?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of people really want to come to the English countryside, right? They want to see all the history and scenery. And once that is in someone's head, they automatically think Cotswolds. And Cotswolds is beautiful, don't get me wrong, it's gorgeous, but it can be busy. A lot of people going there. And it's very small area, tiny little villages, so that can be a factor. And some of the hotel prices, the hotels and the hotel prices, they're quite something now, I feel. So a smart switch to that is, in fact, Shropshire. This is the second time that I'm mentioning it today. And the reason for that is that it has all of the history, all of the culture, unbelievable natural beauty and scenery, but it's a bit more real life. So you might be able to stay in, if you're very lucky, a historic home that is not actually open to the public, that sort of thing, rather than a big kind of Cotswold hotel with lots of people there. So it's not that one is right and the other is wrong. They're just choices and options.
Well, I think you might have a lot of people knocking on your door now in Shropshire. So, Philip, what's a strategy for France?
Well, we've been looking for strategies for a long time. And one of the things that we've started doing quite a lot of, especially in the south of France, is touring late afternoons. Everyone goes out in the morning, they go after lunch. Museums are open till quite late, especially in the summer. And if you go later, not only is it a little bit cooler, but there's a lot less people. If you're discovering villages and other such things, a great thing is to use the French lunchtime strategy, which is whilst all the French disappear for 2 hours for lunch, and so do a lot of other people, a lot of people go and sit down for long lunches, is to make the most as well of those moments, because things do die down during those moments. Now, it's in the summer, it's not going to get cooler, but there are less people. And of course, the last one is, obviously discovering different regions and getting a little bit off the beaten path. But the later touring times is a really great thing, and that kind of works, in a lot of places.
Great. Good tip. Yvonne, what about for Spain or Portugal?
So I've been reflecting on this all week, and I hope I can make it short. So my conclusion is, and I have been applying this since I started working as a travel planner, given the fact that we are all different people, there are as many different trips as many different people we are. So if you tell to your travel advisor who you are, what you want, ignoring external inputs, if you open up and tell your travel advisor, look, this is me, this is what I enjoy, these are my goals, whether they are intellectual, culinary, or life goals, or whatever your heart, your brains, and your heart tell you. Communicate that to an empathetic travel advisor, and the travel advisor will put a trip just for you. And there will be no other trip like that. Therefore, you won't find the masses there. If you follow the mainstream messages that are bombarding us all the time, you will end up with the masses. But if you believe in communicating with honesty what you are like and what your goals are, there will be a trip just for you and nobody will do that trip. Therefore, it will be a great strategy to escape the crowds.
Great. Well, thank you. Okay, so Tom, what's a strategy you would recommend?
Yeah, it is a really good point from Ivan, by the way. But I have to say, in our area, we really face tourist crowd almost exclusively in spring during the tulip season. So the crowd is there for a limited period of time, 3 weeks, in a limited area. It's about 30 kilometers square in the south of Amsterdam. But voilà. But we have a lot of travelers at that period as well, and it's crowded there because of the famous tulip park, the Keukenhof, but mostly because it's an easy access due to buses and train tours offered from Amsterdam. So, but the thing is that there are many other areas where you have large tulip fields and in a beautiful area and less visited because not reachable for most of the people. So voila. Also, farmers are much more welcoming, obviously, and this is really the place to go to avoid the crowd when it's the tulip season.
Great, thank you. Torin, what would be your biggest tip for crowd avoidance or anything else?
Yes, I'd say that for Norway, we have the world's second longest coastline, and many people choose to come to Norway on an international cruise ship. Not so much the Wendy Perrin travelers, but I'd say rule number one, do not come on an international cruise ship, but choose to explore the coast and our fjords on smaller boats. And secondly, what we do to make sure that our guests avoid big groups of people. We don't have a lot of them in Norway, but we do in some of the sort of fjord coast located cities. And we always look at the cruise call lists that are available publicly. You can just search for them online for each and every city and just find out how many ships are in that city on that specific day. And then we avoid sending guests there or planning town-based activities if we see that there will be too many people. And that's basically the only thing that creates crowds in Norway because we are a very sort of sparsely populated country. So that would be the number one recommendation. And this is something we also help guests with. And then, of course, travel far north for a cool vacation, but also for large areas of very few people. Selecting Helgeland instead of Lofoten, selecting Stavanger instead of Bergen. Two simple tips.
Clever, thank you. And Greg, what would be a clever practical strategy for your area?
I would say that to take at least part of your travel budget and invest in a really fantastic guide who can help you navigate those crowds and also invest in some special access and private experiences. So, like really good example, it gets very busy in Vienna in the summertime. But we have a guide who has her private key to the Belvedere Palace to go in to see the Klimt collection before hours, and it's actually it's not crazy expensive, and you're actually going to go see the Klimts, the Kiss when you're alone in the room with this amazing painting, and it could become the highlight of your whole trip to Vienna. But that's an experience that you'll come home with and talk about forever. With a guide like that, you can take the tram system in Vienna, which is absolutely wonderful. Instead of sitting in traffic in a car in the summertime or even during the Christmas market season, the trams move fast all over the city, and you're going to save a ton of time and a lot of money by not being in a private car, doing a transfer, or even a taxi or an Uber. And the same thing with the Schönbrunn Palace out in the suburbs of Vienna. If you take the last appointment of the day, all the big buses are gone. You have the palace almost to yourself. But if you have a little bit more to spend, you can go in with your guide after hours and have the whole place to yourself. So I think that if you selectively pick those experiences, they can be affordable and truly unforgettable, and you're alone with these experiences with no crowds at all.
And that's how to get the most value for your dollar in Europe for sure. Well, we have a lot of questions here. Brooke, do you want to?
Sure. Yeah. And we got a lot of questions pre-submitted by our audience when you all signed up for this talk. So I'll start with a few of those. Maureen and Brian, we're going to go back to you. Lisa asked, where should you go in Italy in the shoulder season? Now, I know shoulder season in one part of Italy is not the same as another. So maybe can you start there and explain where does shoulder season still exist in Italy?
I think the cities, you can see the cities all year. So February is a wonderful time to go to Rome or Venice. I mean, sometimes you may have the threat of high water, but that kind of can happen at any time now. But I think the cities are definitely places you can visit at any time of year. I would say the shoulder season for the summer places doesn't really exist. So the Amalfi Coast doesn't really have a shoulder season because it closes down. Sure, you can go there in February or March. A lot of things will be closed. So if you're going to like squirrel away and write a novel, it might work. But if you want to see the area and you see it in its true beauty and the way it looks when it's, what everybody's writing about and looking at, that is not the time to go. So I know people are anxious to avoid crowds, but it becomes a very fine line between having decent weather and seeing some of the countryside. Even going to Tuscany in the countryside can be cold and damp if it's not, really like early fall. That would be the, kind of the latest you would go. So I think it depends on the destination. It's a tough question because Italy, it's not a very big country, but it has a lot of different climates and different things. Whereas the cities you can really go to anytime.
And I think also the shoulder seasons for outdoor activities like the mountains, for example, I can just speak to them. They have the hiking season in the Dolomites is very short. It's from the end of June through the end of September. You can maybe get away with not getting snowed on in October. In Switzerland, a lot of the upper passes don't even open until the middle of July or August. So yes, if you go in June, you'll have that's a shoulder season hike kind of thing and a shoulder season outdoors, but it may not be the same as you won't get the same experience, and you may actually run into bad weather.
It may be muddy too, and you may have to be flexible with where you can go because you won't really know until you're there what the conditions are like. So you have to be careful with some of the shoulder season ideas.
Yeah, but I think that visiting the cities in Italy during the shoulder seasons is absolutely the best way to see Italy because that's when there are going to be less people in the cities at that time. We have to go on Tuesday to Montalcino to a winery, and
we have to go. It's going to be horrible.
But I know that it's going to be cold. I know that it'll probably be gray, and I know the wine will be cold because they don't heat these places in the winter. So it's just it's different.
But it's a good time for us to go and visit the places.
I've been to Portofino on Valentine's Day. It's not the same experience. There's nobody there, but it's still not the same experience as a regular trip.
Good tips. Nancy was also curious about shoulder season, wants to know what happened to shoulder season. Karen and Philip, I'm curious to hear your thoughts in your parts of Europe. Is there a shoulder season still? And what would you recommend at that time of the year? Karen, do you want to start?
Thank you. Yes, what actually does shoulder season mean anymore? Because everything has changed so much with COVID, and also I think our weather is very different to what happened 5 years ago. So I actually think that March and October are great times to visit. They're much quieter, rates are better, and you can have a really great time in March and October before things start getting super busy. I would say that in March you could definitely go to Scotland and have a city-based tour. So if you're really into like food, cooking, there's some great new experiences there and distilleries that are close to the city, but not going into the Highlands because that could be tricky. And at the other end of the country, I would really recommend Cornwall. I'm planning a couple of Cornwall trips at the moment, one for family and one for couples, and it has its own unique microclimate. It's the warmest place that there is in the UK. So March and October would be great for that. I think any later, it's getting a little bit dark. It'll be dark by 3 p.m. in the afternoon and a little bit chilly. But apart from that, bring on shoulder seasons.
Thanks. And Philip?
Well, it was similar. It used to be really predictable shoulder season. We knew when it was. And things have changed. Climate shift has made things move. April, May, and you can go right back into March. And as Karen was just saying, March works now. March, April, May is fantastic. And what's really great, and what we've been really noticing is the prolongation of the season. So it used to be up till September, October now. We have clients right through into November in Provence, but also in the rest of France. It's quite. I mean, I would never have thought of put anybody in the Loire Valley, for instance, in November before, but now it's a thing that is fairly, risk free to do, and also winter. Earlier on, Brian was talking about going to Portofino on Valentine's Day. It's true that if I go to place. I mean, the problem is a lot of things are closed, but the south of France in winter, I have clients arriving next weekend to come to Provence because, well, the weather's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be chilly, but, well, don't have to worry about the crowds. There are a lot of winter exhibitions. There's one right now in Aix-en-Provence. It's absolutely fantastic. So, I think the whole thing has shifted. There's no rules anymore. It's, so you don't have to think, oh, well, May, June, and September. It goes right through into November. And, of course, Paris, it's all year round.
Yeah, great. Now, not all of us can travel in the shoulder season. Sometimes we've got school schedules or work schedules to think about. Susan asked, where could you go in August and avoid crowds? I tend to think of going more toward the north in Europe in August. So I'd love to hear, Torrin and Tom, if you could both suggest some good August destinations.
Absolutely. Should I start?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I think one of my absolute favorite places to be in Norway and absolutely in August is a place called Varanger. So it's the peninsula leaning towards Russia on the top of Norway. It has fjords. It has a beautiful dramatic coastline. It has a rich bird life. There are whales and there are hardly any people. It has a cool climate. The landscape on the scenic route Varanger, one of the official 18 scenic routes, is like a moon-shaped landscape. And there's so many myths, mysticism, a lot of Sami history. There's a lot of World War II history. So this destination is interesting from both a natural perspective and also cultural and also indigenous culture. And just so much to learn, beautiful small places to stay that have really wonderful hosts with a lot of knowledge that love welcoming guests. And it's completely off the radar. There are no big hotels, no advertisements, no commercials. It's just people living in the rugged north, happy to welcome people who are open to experience something new. And temperatures are very comfortable in the summer.
Sounds great. Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, but I mean, well, the good thing is that August it's local holidays, huh? So kids are at school holidays. Most of companies are closed for summer. So I mean, really, the cities are empty, and still all the sites and attractions are there. I mean. There are still some local living there. So, voilà, you may have one or two neighborhood restaurants which are closed, but for the rest, you will be fine with no traffic jam, no queue. It's actually a fantastic time to travel.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Good point. Now, Greg, we've gotten a couple different questions about Croatia, so I'd love to throw a few of those your way. People want to know what parts of Croatia you can avoid the crowds if possible. Where can you stay away from the crowds? When can you go hiking? What months are ideal for hiking there? And how late in the season can you swim comfortably off the coast of Croatia?
Sure. I think that we'd start by saying like what not to do. July and August are incredibly hot and incredibly high season. It's baffling to me why anyone would choose to go there exactly then because it's the most uncomfortable time to be there. I mean, we're really talking about in Fahrenheit 95, pushing 100 degrees. The cruise ships are in port, in Dubrovnik in particular. The European European vacationers are added to the mix of Americans and the cruise ship passengers. So July. Oh, and by the way, all the hotels are at the most expensive of the year. The tricky part with Croatia is that in the low season, which is the winter time, everything really shuts down. So like a lot of the hotels are not open in the winter. A lot of the restaurants, therefore, are not open in the winter. So you can go in the wintertime, but you really have to be aware of that you're going to be more limited in where you eat, where you stay, and even some of the experiences. So you've got that shoulder season, which is going to be late April, May, early June in Croatia. Absolutely perfect. It's still cool. It's not in high season yet. The hotels and restaurants are open. And then again, September, October, the cruise ships really end in August or taper off through September. So that works really well. The water is still warm, into October. I do always tell people, in an Adriatic beach experience is not the Caribbean. These are not wide, white, sandy beaches. These are more Mediterranean type beaches with rocks and pebbles. And you could be quite disappointed if you're thinking of that white sandy beach experience in general in Croatia. But the water is absolutely beautiful. The color, that aquamarine. So you're going to have a wonderful, wonderful experience no matter what. And I think you asked about the hiking as well. Yes, absolutely. September into October, it's going to get pretty chilly by the end of October, and then the rain. It really can get quite rainy in that season. But yeah, those are the absolute perfect time to go is that shoulder season. High season is the worst time, as I said, for all those reasons.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg. Yvonne, there's a question I'd love you to answer in the Q&A box from Robin. How do you think it will be in Spain this year for the eclipse?
Wonderful if you have your accommodation sorted.
Okay. Yeah.
Because there are a few places in Spain where the eclipse is going to be very long, above 1.5 minutes. So those places are already fairly touristy because one of the optimum ones is going to be Mallorca, with Mallorca being one of the top destinations in the summer. And then other destinations where the eclipse is going to be wonderful are in northern Spain, which is becoming a common destination for Spaniards that are escaping the heat. And also the north of Spain is becoming popular for foreigners as well, because as you know, in the summer, the temperatures are more gentle. So it's going to be wonderful in terms of the location of Spain for this wonderful phenomenon. But I think if you haven't planned your trip, you may be a little late, or otherwise prices are increasing drastically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Let's see. We have so many questions, so little time. Philip, I have one for you. What is your favorite Mediterranean island for nature immersion and outdoor cafes?
Sorry, I was muted again. My favorite Mediterranean island. Yeah, this is an interesting one. We don't have a lot in France. It's not like many of Italy and Spain have got lots. The big island, which has all of it, of course, is Corsica. And I often say to people, what people ask me where I organize trips, and I always say France, Monaco, and Corsica, as if Corsica is another country. It kind of is. They're fiercely independent. It's breathtakingly beautiful. It really is. It's a whole destination. It's not like a small island. It's a place that takes a day to get across if you're driving. You take your time there. Closer to the coast, if you just want to go out for a day, there's Boquerolles. Boquerolles is so between, let's say, if you kind of draw a line from Marseille to, let's say, Saint-Tropez, not quite. It's just off the coast there. That's an island where, and as Greg said, earlier on, we don't have don't think of the Caribbean when you're thinking of beaches here. Boquerolles actually is one of the few places where you can. The beaches are gorgeous, but there's not villages there. There's kind of little areas where there are nice cafes and things. But no, the answer would be Corsica, definitely.
Yeah, I might have been leading the witness by asking our France specialist, but I hear wonderful things about the nature in Corsica.
It's stunning. It's stunning.
We got a couple questions about the current political situation with Europe over Denmark affecting Americans' welcome in Europe. Since so many of you live in Europe, I'd love to hear, maybe Tom, you could start but anyone else who's living in Europe, feel free to chime in. What's your take on how that's affecting the welcome of Americans? Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself, Tom.
Okay.
And I think Torin will go after you.
Yeah. Thanks for checking. I think I understand the question with the current headlines, but yeah, I would say even where public opinion is trained, locals tends to distinguish individual Americans from U.S. political leadership, and there are no unfriendly measures or special restrictions aimed at Americans. Really not. Yeah, you may occasionally hear people mentioning the topic in a conversation, but these reactions are overwhelmingly directed at government policy and not at individual travelers. I can specifically for the Benelux, we are a very international destination as well, with many institutions, worldwide institutions. So Americans guests are extremely common, and you should feel comfortable and welcome. I believe a lot of my colleagues here will say the same. Huh?
Yeah. Torin, did you want to add to that?
Yes, I would, because we have that question. We've had it a lot actually the last couple of weeks with everything that's going on around both the situation in Denmark and Greenland, but also with Trump's comments about the Nobel Peace Prize and his disappointment in not receiving it. And I think that it's so important that Americans understand that they are so welcome in Scandinavia, because Scandinavians have very deep values in how you respect and welcome other people, and we keep politics quite separate from that. So no one would ever, I've never heard of a situation where people are made to feel unwelcome because of some political situation. So it's calm, it's peaceful here, and we keep politics separate from what's going on when we welcome guests. So I really cannot reinforce that statement enough, that Americans are so welcome and they will not feel that they should be made to feel uncomfortable in any way when they're in Scandinavia.
Yeah, thank you. I know we're reaching the end of our hour. Wendy, are there any other particular questions or topics you want to make sure we cover before
Well,
we
I wonder if we could just have, is everybody available for just 5 more minutes? For just a few more questions. I mean, there are some great ones here. Uh, which one do you think will apply to the greatest number of people, Brooke? I mean,
well, a couple different people have asked about mobility issues, travelers who have some mobility limitations. So if anyone has suggestions for helping travelers who maybe have some physical challenges. Maria and Brian?
Yeah, I think that yeah, I unmuted. So I think that one of the most important things when you coming in with that situation is to be as honest as possible with the people who are planning your trip. First of all, if you are coming in with that situation, you need someone to plan your trip. Europe is filled with dangerous staircases and places, stairs and things when you didn't expect to find them. We don't have the American with Disabilities Act here in Italy. Things are more accessible than they've ever been, but there is still lots of places where you need special help to get places. And so we've worked extensively with people who have had disabilities. We get extra, whether it be a wheelchair pusher, whether it be the special taxis in Venice. Or even just having a driver. A driver can get you into the ZTL of a city, the Zona Traffico Limitato, which most cars cannot get into. And so he can drive right up to the site and let you out and you can go inside. That said, Italians are very accommodating. They are always willing to help. They love children, which is great, and they also love old people. And so they're always very accommodating to let people kind of figure out how they're going to see what they want to see. But the most important thing, the fundamental thing, is to be honest about what the disability is, what the limitations are with the people who are planning your trip. Because if we don't know, we can't make the right suggestions.
Great point. Yvonne, I know you had your hand up. I don't know if it was about this or a previous topic.
I mean, I can answer this, and there was a question that by mistake I deleted. So I
Okay.
wanted to bring it up because I thought it was very interesting. So regarding mobility issues, I fully agree with Maria and Brian about honesty and about actual facts. So for example, we want to go for a walk, but not too long. What is too long? You know, I want to know in distance or minutes or how long can you walk continuously before you need a stop? And that stop, how long do you need it to be? After the stop, how long can you keep going? And in a whole day, how much can you walk? You know, things like that. The more specific you are, the better. And then there was a question. I don't know if you're interested, but somebody asked about relocating to a country temporarily as a part of their holiday. You know, like a 1 month stay. And this is something that I believe is becoming very interesting, especially like for 1 month is still something that you would consider a holiday. It's still traveling, you know, it's not actually relocating as such. But that's what we are starting to call residential tourism. When you go there to try what it would be like to be a local, and you do that maybe for 10 days in the same destination, 15 days. And this is the way I am now doing my own inspection trips. I go there and relocate temporarily. And I think this is coming. I don't know if my peers think the same.
Perrin, I think you had your hand up. Did you want to speak to one of those points?
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on the mobility issue as well. It's not just about people who have a disability. We're all living longer, so people have problem with their knees or with their hips or something like that. And we just make sure that no one misses out on anything that they want to do. But that honesty and being not overly optimistic, because when you start out, it's a bit like when you're starting to on an exercise regime, you're going to do it every day and you're going to run 20 miles every day. You know, it's always incredibly optimistic. So it's a good idea to be cautious. And that's where I think a private guide can really help by reading the room and tailoring the rest of the day and the following day around how each person has been getting on that day.
Yeah, great point. We also got a question about train travel, which I know is extremely popular and effective around Europe. Any tips or tricks if wanting to travel by train to see multiple cities or countries? Tom, did you want to speak to
Yeah,
that?
we have quite often travelers traveling by train with the Eurostar, even if it's coming from other destination for a multi-country trip through Europe or also domestic. But I mean, if it's a day trip, for instance, let's say you are in Amsterdam with your hotel and you want to do a day trip in The Hague or at another city just for the day, that's perfectly fine. But when you are traveling, you are moving, you are going to another city and you are going to overnight there, and you are moving with your bags and everything, I strongly recommend to go with a private transfer. Because really they will bring you from hotel from door to door. Traveling at the train station, you cannot find the lift to go up to the platform to board the trains with your bags. Can be a hassle.
I
That's
see
just my
a lot
point.
of nodding heads. It looks like there's a lot of affirmation of
Say
that
in
point.
Italy, if
Yeah.
people are doing like a day trip from Rome to Pompeii, no, they can do that easily on the train. But if you're moving with bags, we always get in station assistants and porters because there's not a lot of signage in English. And even though you know the destination, it is confusing to find the right train and the right track. And if you just have somebody who knows the ropes, and also you don't have to worry about watching your bags or feeling unsafe, it's a huge help.
Okay, well, I think our final 5 minutes are up now. I just want to thank all of you so much for joining us. I want to thank the audience for joining us, but also our very expert wow list specialists for Europe. We really appreciate your taking the time today to answer all these questions. And I just want to assure you know I've been busy with the Q&A box here, like telling everybody how they can get more information. I want to be sure everybody realizes, yes, we are recording all of these Wow Week Zooms. Yes, we are publishing them. We will be sending you the links. The easiest way to get all this information is just to sign up for our newsletter. If you go to WendyPerrin.com, in the top right on the homepage, it'll say get our newsletter. Just click and sign up. It's free, but that is the easiest way to get the links to all these Zoom recordings and all the articles that will have a lot of this expertise that we'll share with you again. And of course, if you have a question that didn't get answered, we're at questions@WendyPerrin.com for any of your travel questions, or if you're looking for the right travel designer to be connected with to have all these special kinds of experiences in Europe. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and we hope we'll see you at our other Wow Week travel talks Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Happy travel.
Welcome.
Bye.
Cheers.